This program is sponsored by Chocolations, located at 607 East Boston Post Road in Mamaroneck.
Tonight on The Local Live, the Marine Education Center is open for the season. An incumbent on the Mamaroneck School Board is running against 3 candidates in the community on May 21st. See what's cooking at Harbor Fish & Co. on Mamaroneck Avenue. And on tonight's roundtable, New York State Senator Shelley Mayer is back for your questions. Good evening, it's Thursday, May 9th. I'm Sibylla Chipiziwa, and welcome to The Local Live. An incumbent and 3 new candidates are running for a seat on the Mamaroneck Board of Education for a 3-year term. Rena Bader has served on the school board for 3 years and is currently its secretary. She is a lawyer and is the board liaison to the Enrollment Task Force. Louis Quiros is a familiar face and name in Mamaroneck. He is an activist, organizer, educator, and author, and he has run for the board at least twice in the past. Tanya Thomas is one parent who spoke out against the recent racist incidents in the district. Along with Quiros, she is a member of One Mamaroneck, the local organization that aims to address various systemic issues in Mamaroneck schools. Christian Zambrano is a Mamaroneck High School graduate. He lives in the community with his family and currently works in the Yonkers School District as an assistant principal. Tune in to next week's The Local Live to hear what the candidates have to say about winning or keeping a seat on the Mamaroneck School Board. The community will vote for the seat and whether to approve the proposed $139 million school budget for the 2019-2020 year on Tuesday, May 21st. The Mamaroneck Village Planning Board amended its 2007 site plan for the Mason on 270 Waverly Avenue so that the rules governing its 5 affordable housing units conform to current village code.
The village took a look at their below market rate ordinance and made changes based on the model ordinance. They did not fully adopt the model ordinance, but they did make some changes. When West Hab came into, West Hab is the Washingtonville Housing Alliance is a subsidiary of West Hab. When they came in and were looking to comply with the resolution from 2007, they reviewed it and thought that it would be prudent to comply with the new code, which came out of the HUD settlement, which again we were not a part of, and is more consistent with best practices in affordable housing. So we agreed, staff agreed that it should follow the new code. There's a reason why the village adopted that code. There are 2 additional conditions that are in this resolution amendment that are not part of the current code, but West Hab would prefer to administer the units in such a way. That includes having no local preferences and marketing in a firm and affordable manner.
The ongoing uncertainty about Sport Time's future in Harbor Island Park continues. This past Monday, an email from Sport Time's CEO and regional manager was sent out to local patrons. There was a link to view correspondence between David Newberg, an attorney representing the company, and the Mamaroneck Village Board and attorney, Robert Spalzino. In one letter, Newberg writes, "The residents of the village may not be aware that, as you told me, the Village Board of Trustees simply wanted their park back and no longer desired any park program off tennis at Harbor Island Park." He continued to say that in the context of Sport Time exiting the park, the board was prepared to prohibit all tennis in the village for more than 5 years. Monday's memo to Sport Time members encouraged the use of other tennis facilities for the upcoming indoor season, including the Lake Isle Courts in East Chester. The company is also willing to refund any registration deposits. If you recently dined at the Winston restaurant in Mount Kisco, you may have been exposed to hepatitis A by an infected worker, and you should seek treatment immediately. Westchester County's Department of Health is offering free preventative treatment tomorrow Friday, May 10th, for anyone who was not vaccinated and may have been exposed. And on tonight's roundtable, Maura Collin will talk to New York State Senator Shelley Mayer about issues that could affect her constituents here in the 37th District.
Good evening, I'm Maura Carlin. Welcome to the Roundtable. My guest is New York State Senator Shelley Mayer, who represents the 37th Senate District, and that includes our Sound Shore community. This is your chance to ask any questions or provide comments about state legislation and initiatives and anything else you want. The contact information's on your screen. Shelley, thank you for being here
My pleasure.
again.
It's great to be here.
Right now, New York State, as you know, has a governor who's a Democrat, Senate's controlled by the Democrats, and the Assembly's controlled by the Democrats. In other words, the Democratic Party controls all the branches in Albany. Does that mean that the Democrats are just doing everything that they've wanted to do and haven't been able to do? Or are there things that Republicans and Democrats actually are agreeing on?
Oh, well, there's certainly things that Democrats and Republicans agree on, and there are many things that Democrats disagree on. So the premise that we're all on the same page about everything is I think, inaccurate. Example, I'm the chair of the Education Committee. I fought extremely hard and challenged the governor where I thought I did not agree with him about his initial budget proposal on how much money to give to education. I think there should be more. I think districts are owed more through the Sound Shore, throughout Westchester, in fact, throughout the state. So just because we're Democrats doesn't mean we agreed. And in fact, the Senate Democratic majority and the Assembly Democratic majority both challenged the governor and said, we don't agree with you. Most of my Republican colleagues agreed with me that the districts throughout the state are owed more, and they were disappointed, as I was at the end, that we couldn't get more. So it's not always a matter of partisanship. Yes, those of us who are Democrats in the Senate waited a long time to be in the majority, and we are doing many of the things that we promised that we would do once we got there, and we're thrilled that we're able to move forward and get stuff done. But it is not like there's a uniformity of views because we're all Democrats. The vast majority of legislation in both houses passes on a bipartisan basis, and Democrats and Republicans agree about many things, and some things we disagree, and that's the beauty of the process.
Well, New York State has been at the forefront of, shall we call it, the anti-Trump movement, if you will. And some of the legislation that's actually come out this week from the Senate seems to have gone very much on party lines. And I was wondering if you could explain what they are. One of them is it gets called the proposed law to get Trump's tax returns, but it really sounds like it's to allow Congress access to Trump's New York State tax returns.
Right. So there were two bills that the Senate passed this week, and they were passed on a partisan basis. And I would say for myself, as a lawyer and a person who really thinks that the rule of law has tremendous value, these are not directed at President Trump. Yes, they were prompted in part by his participation in his decisions. These would apply to anyone in power. So the first one says that if 3 separate committees of the United States Congress that have the power to request tax returns from the IRS in the context of an investigation wish to request those from the New York State Department of Tax and Finance, they may do so and they must be turned over. So it can't be willy-nilly that anyone gets a tax return. But in the context of this president refusing to turn over his tax returns to Congress or saying that they're unwilling to, this would provide only those 3 committees in the exercise of their authority. If they're in doing an investigation, they ask the IRS for someone's tax returns, then they can ask New York State Department of Taxation and Finance for the state tax returns. It's limited, and it's intended to really facilitate. Congress should be able to do its work. So we are simply saying, here is a tool that you should have. Other states get New York State tax returns if they're investigating. They have sharing agreements. This is really just building on that and saying the rule of law should govern.
The language of the bill that passed said that they could do this at any one of these 3 committees for a specified and legitimate legislative purpose.
Correct.
That's not so clear. Isn't that just buying into more litigation?
No, it isn't actually. Congress has enumerated powers. And this is in the context of using those powers. So if a committee is entitled to examine conduct for example, a violation of the Internal Revenue Code, that is their enumerated power. So yes, the language in the state statute might be what you consider unduly vague, but we are tracking what they are authorized to do under federal law. Okay. And we are saying, there's 3 branches of government. And New York State is going to ensure that if Congress needs to do its job, we are going to assist them in doing a legitimate job. This would apply to the next Democratic, if there is a Democratic president thereafter.
Right.
So that's what this is about.
The other bill that came out this week was to close the supposed double jeopardy loophole. And this is complicated, so I'm hoping you could kind of explain to us what that means.
I'll do my best. So the concern is that this president, and it is definitely triggered by his potential pardoning of people within an inner circle.
So it is a law directed at him?
No, it would apply to him, and again, it would apply to any other president. This has to do with the rule of law. So if this president or a future president should pardon someone within an inner circle, like a family member, someone who works for them, that would not preclude New York State from applying its own laws to the conduct that was the subject of the pardon. So if for example, I worked for you and you were the president, and I worked for you and you pardoned me for some conduct that was independent of that, a crime in New York State, or could have been, this would say that a DA in New York could examine my conduct and determine whether I violated New York law. New York has its own laws. We are a sovereign entity. We ought not to be have the determination of whether someone broke a New York law determined by the president, particularly when it's in this inner circle, and that's all that it applies to. So this is really about the power of the state of New York to ensure that the district attorneys and other law enforcement authorities, the Attorney General, have the authority to interpret and proceed at New York law. This was a program bill, which means a request of the New York State Attorney General to have this law in order to protect New York's own sovereignty, to ensure that particularly its criminal laws, are interpreted and carried out by our local district attorneys and Attorney General.
Now, the Assembly has not tackled this bill yet.
Well, they didn't pass it yet.
They haven't passed it yet.
I hope they do. I think the governor's indicated he would be favorable to this. And again, to me, and I am someone who takes this personally, I'm offended when we move away from the rule of law. So this is really an assertion that New York is going to be a state that abides by a system of laws and norms.
Well, thank you for trying to explain that to us.
I
It's
hope I was
complicated.
clear.
You did. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about more specific issues or other specific issues in legislation, so stay with us.
Do you need space for a meeting, conference, or presentation? LMC TV has what you need. Our 768 square foot studio space is ideal for many types of productions, readings, recitals, rehearsals, and workshops. The space has video recording capability, as well as daylight temperature lighting, green screen, and stage. 2 additional rooms at 208 and 156 square feet can be used for any of your needs. Auditions, meetings, classes, workshops, one-on-one instructions, and more. Both rooms feature video monitors with Chromecasting capability, making presentations a breeze. To reserve one or more of our spaces,
contact us at reserve@lmctv.org.
For over 35 years, LMC TV has been your community connection. Community events, studio and equipment access, classes, municipal and school board meetings, sports, news, and so much more. But the world is changing, and our community is changing with it. We encourage you to take action, join us, and create the space you want and deserve. We're listening. Are you watching? This is your opportunity to get what you want. Visit lmctv.org today and fill out our online survey and help us continue to build community through media.
Welcome back. Now remember, you still can get in your questions to State Senator Shelley Mayer. Just the contact information's on your screen. Okay, we're going to move on now to the status of the law approved by both the Assembly and the Senate in New York to increase Westchester County sales tax by 1%. What's the status? It's on the governor's desk. or was?
It actually isn't on the governor's
Okay.
desk. So here's what happened. I'm proud we passed it, and I'm proud the Assembly passed it. We thought it was going to be in the budget. It was not in the budget, so then if it was not in the budget, as the sponsor, I wanted to make sure it was passed. And I would just want to give credit to the county executive, my friend George Latimer, because he's made a great case that if we do this modest sales tax increase outside of the big cities of Westchester, this will obviate the need for a property tax increase for the county share of the property tax. And anything that reduces the burden on property taxpayers, I'm for. So I believe that this is a very good compromise and moves the ball a step ahead. So once the bill is passed by both houses, the council for the Senate majority, I used to have that job, negotiates with the governor's council on the appropriate time to send the bill, any concerns the governor has. The bill has not been sent. We have talked to the governor. I have spoken to the governor. I'm very hopeful he's going to sign it. I think when the governor and the council work out the time, then the bill will be sent and hopefully he'll sign it.
Does it expire if it's not passed by the end of the session?
Well, we need it to be signed in time for the county to go ahead and collect sales tax as soon as it is implemented. And it takes a certain degree of time to set up the systems to collect the appropriate amount of sales tax per jurisdiction in the county. So we need a little lead time. And I'm very hopeful that in the near future it's going to be signed.
How is an increase in the sales tax not a regressive tax? Because sales tax is typically thought to be the most regressive form of taxation. And even if it, doesn't affect the cities and presumably the poorer populations that are in the cities, it still affects the lower middle class and the middle class by increasing the sales tax.
Well, I agree with you. Traditionally, sales tax is seen as very regressive. However, you're talking about a 1% increase that is going to basically still be less than many of our surrounding or equal to our surrounding counties. We are less than many of them. Two, as you pointed out, the cities where the majority of lower income residents of Westchester live, including Yonkers where I live, already has a significantly higher sales tax. And having been a sponsor of that increased sales tax, which was intended to fund education, it made Yonkers equal to the Bronx. Frankly, I don't think that people are making sales decisions in Westchester by where the sales tax is. So a 1% increase that makes us comparable to our neighboring counties, exempts the cities and holds our property tax at the county level flat for 2 years is overall a good way to move forward. The last thing is the county was left with a tremendous financial deficit from the last county executive. And George Latimer is trying to bring the county along up to a decent playing field where our finances are on sound footing. This is a good way to do so, and I give him a lot of credit, and I'm hopeful the governor's going to sign it.
We touched on this. You are, we should say, the chair of the Education Committee in the Senate. And you touched on some of the issues, but can you specifically talk about the funding in the Mamaroneck and Rhinebeck school districts?
Sure. So every school district in the state had some increase in funding. It wasn't enough. So there's something called foundation aid, which is intended to be really the representative of need as the state allocates money. It is far from perfect. It has some very outdated data. I happen to think it needs some significant changes, but every district receives some amount of foundation aid, and every district should have seen a modest increase in their foundation aid across the state, including every district in the Sound Shore. Did we do well enough for all of our districts, including high-performing districts like Mamaroneck, Rhinebeck? All of our districts need more state money and less burden on property taxpayers. So my goal is to find a way for the state to be a better source of revenue, a more predictable source of revenue, particularly with a property tax cap. All these districts are suffering with, they want to invest in additional services, whether it's mental health services, arts and gym and sports and quality teachers and bilingual education, all the other requirements. With a property tax cap, they're up against the wall a little bit. And so I believe the state should take a bigger share. That's what I continue to push for. I've worked closely with all of our districts. I go to them, I see them. I've met with the students in both of these districts who are fantastic. Great leadership.
We have a lot of them volunteering here.
And great boards. Really, we couldn't ask for a more engaged citizenry than we have in our Sound Shore schools. And you know, it's a tribute to these communities. But we need to do better at the state level, and I'm going to continue to fight. I didn't get everything I wanted. I'm going to continue to fight.
Okay. There's a proposed change in rape laws. Can
Yes.
you tell us what that is?
So there is a bill, and I think you're talking about a bill that I carry, that came about when a woman was the subject of basically sexual assault in a variety of ways, which from her experience should have been deemed rape. And it could not be charged as rape because of the way the current penal law describes sexual assault. This bill makes a number of things rape, including forced oral sex and other kinds of acts. Whether this bill is going to pass in its current form, I'm not sure. People who have legitimate concerns. Some of the district attorneys have some concerns. So it has moved a step ahead in our House. It's passed the Assembly in prior years. But there's a number of things, particularly as the Me Too movement and women speak up about the nature of sexual assault, the definitions of rape that exist in the criminal law do not always accurately reflect the experience and the need for people who are the victims to have their voice heard about a conduct which is, if not traditional rape, currently should be called rape.
Is the definition of rape, is it only a man against a woman?
In this particular bill, this deals with sexual activity between a man and a woman, but it could deal with sexual activity between a man and a man, particularly, as the bill is proposed. Again, there's some tricky things in the bill as to whether the district attorneys are going to be on board, and I'm very mindful of their opinion, and whether this will get us all the way to what we believe is necessary, and how does it work for sentencing. So I am the sponsor because I sat through in the Assembly the arguments on behalf of this one particular victim who really could not have the defendant charged and convicted of rape, even though the conduct he engaged in was, for all practical purposes, rape.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back in a moment, continue our questions with Senator Shelley Mayer. So feel free to write in, call in, whatever. Just the contact information's on your screen.
LMC TV Media Center is the spot for your next party. Lights, camera, liftoff. The possibilities are endless. Space adventures, video gaming, whatever they imagine, LMC can achieve. Kids of all ages have fun making their own videos in our professional TV studio. LMC TV is the perfect spot for your creative kid to celebrate with friends and make a memory that will last forever in video. Party themes can range depending on their desire. Fun news shows, music videos, stop motion, overall silliness, our cameras can capture it all. Contact us to book a party today.
Do you have a great idea for a YouTube video or a short film, but don't know how to make it happen? LMC TV has what you need. Our equipment cage is stocked with professional quality cameras, tripods, lighting, sound, cabling, and more. Our 768 square foot studio features a full lighting grid, wraparound green screen, teleprompter, TriCaster, and high-definition cameras. To reserve equipment, contact us at reserve@lmctv.org.
Welcome back. We're talking to State Senator Shelley Mayer. So you are interested in, you have a proposed bill on something that's a little different. It's, I believe, called the Textilizer Bill.
Right.
Which would allow police to determine whether a driver was texting if they're pulled over or in an accident?
Basically, if it's an accident. In an accident, this proposal, which really was the work of an incredible person whose son was killed in an accident in which he independently later determined the driver had been texting. And there was really, at the time of the accident, again, the police didn't have the tools. They can tell if you're on the phone, like speaking on the phone, but if you are texting, your Facebook, you're Instagramming, you're using your phone in an app that they don't have the technology to determine, they can't do anything about it at that moment.
So how does this work? They can tell if you're touching your phone?
Well,
if
yes,
it's-
swiping, not what you're swiping. In other words, I go on Facebook while I'm busy driving, and let's just admit, we see this everywhere, and everyone knows it's a very serious problem. This is an effort to create some tools. I know there are people who have concerns about it. This will not show you, oh, you went on the LMC TV Facebook page. It would just say you opened the Facebook app. They are developing the technology. The company that is developing the technology was present at our roundtable in Albany. And if we are able to pass a bill, they are going to design the technology that would give the police the opportunity, if there's an accident, and if you willingly give over your phone, you do not have to give a password, nothing like that. If you willingly give over your phone, they could determine if you swiped into an application.
So it's if you went into an app, not just if your phone was open.
No, absolutely. If you swiped into an app and they could read the time. So look, this is not a pie in the sky idea. This is what is causing a serious number of accidents. People put their head down for a minute or look at their phone for a minute, and people are in serious accidents. We had at this roundtable a police chief, a Republican Assembly member who's on board with this bill, a town supervisor, the insurance company industry. This problem, this real problem of people using their phones in different apps while they're driving, we cannot just put our head down, and I'm not going to do it. To me, it's a real serious risk. So this is an effort to create some kind of tool.
But surely you've heard or seen about the case in Connecticut of the guy pulled over, and it was really hash browns from McDonald's. He was pulled over after leaving McDonald's. I mean, how do you prevent that kind of...
Well, this is different. This is an accident, number one. The police would ask for your phone. If you do not give it over under the way we propose, you would get a ticket, just a ticket. You're not going to get hauled into jail.
For what?
For refusing a reasonable request of a police officer. You had an accident. You hit somebody. Somebody was hurt. Somebody died. I mean, these are serious things. If we don't know that you cannot be charged. Yet if you were texting and you were looking down and you were driving negligently and someone died as a result, there are penalties for that. And we ought to give tools to the law enforcement to determine, and then for our DAs to be able to charge. So I think this is absolutely the way to go. I agree, we're at the front end of this. This was a bill that has been around before. I'm not the first one. I am just very committed as someone who drives and looks over at the driver next to me and can see, as we all can, that a heck of a lot of drivers are using their phone and not just hands-free speaking through the Bluetooth.
Let me ask you something, because this comes up all the time. If you're at a red light, can you be using your phone? If you're stopped.
You can use hands-free device like a Bluetooth, but to use your hands on the phone and take them off the wheel, and more importantly,
at a red light when you're stopped,
to divert your attention. Well, you're at a red light and someone is walking across the crosswalk, and maybe you have your head down and your foot goes up a little bit. You know, driving requires full attention. Some of us learned that a long time ago. Not that we all do it perfectly. This is a national epidemic. This is one tool to begin to address this problem. The fact that it has challenges in the technology, the fact is I believe law enforcement is going to be fully on board.
Are there any other states that have this?
They're looking at it in other states. In fact, this gentleman that I talked to you about is going around the country being asked by state legislators throughout the country to come and talk about the next step in addressing this problem. He spent months, because he couldn't get the records, to ultimately show that the driver responsible for the death of his child was texting.
Let's move on to another proposed law, which is a change in the election law.
Yes, well, we did a lot of changes in the election law. In the first 3 months of our new majority, we changed drastically. We allowed early voting. We're going to have early voting like other states. We're going to allow early registration of 16 and 17-year-olds. We put the primaries together to save money for the state, and thereby making people get engaged at a quicker level. I have a number of other proposals, including much more email communication from the Board of Elections back to us, requiring translators in very targeted places where everyone in a building needs help understanding the ballot.
Well, I was actually more specifically referring to the one to allow campaign funds to be used for child care
Oh, that
expenses.
one, yes, I'm sorry, because there's a lot of campaign things
Okay.
going on. So that, under the current law, it is not clear that you can use funds that you raise in a campaign to pay for child care simply during the course of the campaign. The New York State Board of Elections, because of efforts at the federal level, has informally changed its policy. But I know I tried to run for office as a young woman with young children, and certainly there was no way that you could use the funds of the campaign to pay for somebody to watch your kids while you went out to 4 meetings a night, which you need to do. And I want to encourage young mothers and fathers to run for office. This is a very legitimate use of campaign funds, in my opinion, and I'm very confident that we're going to get this bill signed.
Okay. We are actually out of time. I mean, it goes so quickly.
Thank you, Maura.
Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Stay tuned. We'll have many more stories coming up on The Local Live.
The move comes 4 days after her blackface comment that provoked a firestorm.
In an era of media consolidation and globalization, the PEG channels root our media in local communities, in local voices, and that is absolutely indispensable.
A lot of people are able to get job training, information, just from using public access.
This is about the arts. This is about accessibility. This is about transparency.
Great youth media programs giving people second chances in being able to learn new skills.
PEG stations give viewers critical information about their communities and offer an important platform for local residents. PEG channels connect us to our communities, and they enrich our lives every single day of the year. The FCC should work for communities, not powerful cable companies. This battle is a lot like the fight for net neutrality. Net neutrality is really about every voice, no matter how small, being heard. The same is true here with the PEG channels.
The main threat facing media centers nationwide is that the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, is going to redefine how we receive our funding.
It will impact the people who we're trying to serve. They were actually paying for us in their cable bill, and now all of a sudden the cable operator is taking their money, then deducting it from us.
They cannot be in a position where they basically force the shuttering of PEG channels all across our country.
We need Congress to tell the FCC that they're out of bounds.
It's pretty clear to me that the FCC is an agency that does the public's will begrudgingly, and it fits and starts.
We're talking about supporting causes, charities, education, youth, seniors, democracy.
This is not a left issue. This is not a right issue. This is an everybody issue.
If you care about protecting local community access television, raise your voices.
When the warmer weather finally settles in and you're craving something fresh, deep fried, or steamed, head on over to Harbor Fish and Company on Mamaroneck Avenue for all kinds of deliciously prepared seafood. Brought to you by co-owners Kian Gaston and Naldo Morales.
Harbor Fishing Company is an idea I had about 4 years ago. Living in Mamaroneck, we had no fish market where you can buy fresh fish and have prepared fish. So I came up with this crazy idea to open one in Mamaroneck. I'm a CPA, I do taxes for a living, I have tax stores in the Bronx. This was a new endeavor. So the idea came to me just kind of as a whim. I said, let me just try it. And I did start construction about a year ago. After the construction, I kind of came to a halt because I needed to partner with someone who had experience in the restaurant industry. Someone connected me with my chef, who was the former head chef at the Tiki Bar in Rye Playland. And together we crafted the menu and we selected the fish items that we wanted to sell, and the rest was history. You know, my father is, he runs a very large chain of fast food restaurants. And that is not why I did it, but I think it may be in my blood. But I just really thought Mamaroneck needed a fish and chip takeout. I really did. We have pizza, we have Chinese, we have Indian, we have so many variety of foods, but we don't have a fish and chip takeout. And living here for 7 years, my daughter going to the school, I said, this would be the perfect place. And we're right by the harbor. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, right? And I had a dream I was going to open the store here, I swear to you. About 2 years ago, when the Doc Vapor Lounge was here, I called asking if the store was for rent, and he was like, no, I have a business here. About a year later, the store was for rent, and I immediately jumped on it. We sell raw fish for people to go home and prepare. We also do fish and chips, lobster rolls, homemade New England clam chowder, lobster bisque. We do steamed platters as well for someone who's a little healthy conscious. We can steam up any fish that we serve with your choice of vegetables. We have about over a dozen vegetables. We do a create your own platter where you can mix and match some of our fried items. We do seafood salads, crab cakes. Those are half a pound of jumbo lump crab meat, no fillers. We also do clam strips, fried oysters, shrimp po' boy sandwiches. I mean, we have a lot of things on the menu. Mostly everything is takeout, and we also deliver through Uber Eats. And we're really excited to bring some fresh, authentic, seasoned, fried food and steamed food to you guys, and we can't wait to serve you.
Here's some of what's happening around town. Come down to the St. John's Episcopal Church on Larchmont this Saturday for their first annual tag sale, hosted by the Neighbors for Refugees. Please donate toys, art, household goods, and more. You can drop off any items on Friday, May 10th from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Enjoy opening day at Playland, featuring parades, a marching band, and fun. The festivities will be held on May 11th at 11 a.m. with the amusement park opening at noon. Also, in honor of Mother's Day, there will be free rides for moms on May 12th. Join the Larchmont Mamaroneck Local Summit for breakfast at the Nautilus Diner on Tuesday, May 14th. A discussion of affordable housing for the working poor will take place from 7:45 a.m. until 9 a.m. We hope to see you there. And learn about maintaining a healthier lifestyle at the Power of Plant-Based Nutrition event at the Mamaroneck Public Library. A registered dietitian and dentist will discuss the benefits of eating whole foods and how it can prevent illnesses in the future. This free talk and demo will be held on Wednesday, May 15th from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m.
LMC Cast.
The whole system is fine. All right, cool.
I definitely would recommend doing podcasts if you are someone that likes to get something off the chest, or you want to just talk about anything in the world that just might interest you. Podcast here at LMC TV is amazing.
I hope you're listening out there.
The Marine Education Center in Mamaroneck is now officially open to the public and all year round. LMC TV caught up with Mayor Tom Murphy and a staff member to see what programs the center has to offer.
Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to the Harbor Island Marine Education Center opening.
This year we have programs Wednesday through Sunday, free to the public, twice a day. Check out the website for those programs. We also are doing birthday parties this year, all ages.
This program has been growing, and since the last year, we have taught more classes, visited more schools, had more visitors into the harbor. There's opportunities to volunteer and participate, so please come down and visit the Marine Education Center in Harbor Island Park. Thank you, and have a good spring and summer.
This week in sports, Mamaroneck and Rhinebeck faced off on the softball diamond. With the game scoreless, Mamaroneck's Sophie Ottorino gave her team some instant offense in the LMC Varsity Sports Player of the Week.
Back here on LMC Varsity Sports, and Sophie Ottorino with the shot to right field. It's out of here! Sophie Ottorino, first pitch swinging, and it's a home run. That was a shot off the bat of Ottorino, and it's 1-0. And quickly the Tigers take a lead after only putting the ball in play once in the first inning. They come back, and Ottorino hits a bomb to right off the bat, and that was almost a no-doubter as the center fielder hits a solo home run to make it 1-0, and the way Caspers look, that could be all they need.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty clear off the bat that was
going to be close.
Going to be gone, or at worst, I guess, hit off the wall.
First pitch of the inning.
Do you have a news tip? Seen anything interesting around town? Is there breaking news in your community? Send your videos, comments, pictures, and tips to the Local Live, your news source of Larchmont and Mamaroneck.
Remember, if you missed Thursday's live broadcast, you can catch replays of the Local Live twice a day on this channel and find story clips on our YouTube channel. Also, be sure to follow us on Facebook to stay up to date on things you may have missed. LMC TV has launched an online community survey. Please take a few minutes to tell us what you want from your local media center. You are the community, and this is about you. And don't forget to vote for your favorites in this year's LMC TV Award Night, including the best overall news package for the Local Live in 2018. Thank you for watching the Local Live. I'm Sibylla Chipaziwa. We would like to wish our Muslim viewers Ramadan Mubarak. And to all the moms out there, again, happy Mother's Day. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. Have a good night.
This program is sponsored by Chocolations, located at 607 East Boston Post Road in Mamaroneck. If you are interested in sponsoring this or other programs on LMC TV, contact us for more information.